Well, Mitt Romney says he created 100,000 jobs as the head of Bain Capital, and that private sector experience prepares him for the presidency. Mark Maremont joining us now from Boston dug into those numbers. And Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about the discrepancy out there in the number of jobs people believe Mitt Romney actually created?
Good morning, Sarah. Well, the key thing here is that we looked at these numbers and said, okay, we took Mr. Romney's claim at face value, which is that, all right, he says he helped create 100,000 jobs, but where did that number come from? So as we dug deeper, it appears that it came only basically from 4 companies that Bain invested in, such as Staples, a retailer, Sports Authority, another retailer, and a couple of other firms.
So
Those companies now
those...
have over 120,000 jobs. So that the basis of the claim is that there were 120,000, almost 130,000 people actually now working at those 4 companies. But a lot of these jobs, of course, were added long after Mitt Romney left Bain Capital in 1999. So we asked a few academics, well, are there other accounting methodologies one could use? And one of them, Steve Kaplan at University of Chicago, said, well, let's give Romney the same number of, we'll give him 100% of the credit of the jobs, but only until he left in 1999. And he did some kind of a sort of rough count and came up with tens of thousands, not over 100,000. It's a little unclear exactly how many, but at those 4 companies, by that method, it's about 66,000 jobs. So that's a lower number already.
Right. So basically, I mean, the first method says these 4 companies, Mitt Romney helped start them. He should get credit for all the jobs that have ever been created in their history. And that's how you get this kind of robust 100,000 figure. And then the second lower number says, fine, we'll give you credit for starting these companies for, these 4, but we're only going to give you credit up until the time that you left. But then you also had a third measure that was really interesting and obviously much lower. And if I'm understanding it correctly, it basically says, look, Bain provided 10% of the capital for this deal, so we're going to give him credit for, say, 10% of the jobs that were created. Is that right?
Yes. It's a sort of proportional or weighted average method, which is, if Bain only was one of a number of investors, say in Sports Authority, there were 5 or 6 investors at the beginning. Bain wasn't even actually the originator of the whole chain, the first investor. And they had about 10%. So you say, okay, while Bain owned a stake there, we'll give them 10% of the jobs that were added. When they sold out, they don't get any more jobs. Now, it's a somewhat, this measure partly was come up with by a professor at Cornell, John Abab, and it's a somewhat harsh measurement because it doesn't give Mr. Romney or Bain credit for the advice that they gave, which is sometimes important. But, that kind of advice is very difficult to measure. So, at the end of the day, if you look at just those 4 companies, this method produces a job total of, believe it or not, less than 1,500 jobs. So that's quite a lot lower than the 100,000 Mr. Romney has been claiming.